I've got 11 tips for living in Mexico, so you should definitely watch this before moving to Mexico, and don't forget to watch to the end because the last tip I have for you is a bunch of secret apps that you can use to make your life easy while living in Mexico. My first tip if you want to move to Mexico and live here full time is that you sell your home and car. Now, getting rid of your home means that you will have some more money in your bank account, for example, but also it'll give you the freedom to go and set up a new home somewhere else. And same thing with getting rid of your car. You could theoretically drive one down here on a temporary import permit, but why not just move down here and get a vehicle after obtaining residency? Cars are much less expensive here. You could get a motorcycle even for $1,000 to $2,000. It's really inexpensive to buy things like that down here. Even homes can go for $20, $30, less than $50,000, and you could be living in a pretty decent place. So just get rid of what you have in your home country and move to Mexico without them. My second tip for living in Mexico is that if you have a bunch of other stuff other than your home and your car, is that you just try to sell as much of it as possible. Get rid of it, put it on Craigslist, put it on Facebook, put it on Amazon. Just get rid of your stuff, have a yard sale because you don't want to ship everything down here. Sure, you can if you want to. You could use something like DHL to get all your stuff down here, but why do that? Just get rid of everything, lighten your load. Anything that you need to buy while you're down here is going to be much less expensive anyway, outside of maybe some really important electronics or something like that. My third tip for living in Mexico is that before you move here, you might want to consider applying for residency. You could apply for temporary or permanent residency. I'll link to some videos at the end of this if you want to see that. But getting residency down here will allow you to open a bank account, you can buy a vehicle, you can get on the public health insurance, things like that. So there's a lot of benefits to getting residency while living in Mexico. That leads us into the fourth tip that I have for you is that if you do get residency before you move to Mexico, you can actually start applying for the healthcare online. So once you have your residency, you can apply online and hopefully get onto the public healthcare system, which will significantly reduce your cost of living if you're used to paying for healthcare in the United States, that's for sure. My fifth tip for living in Mexico is that you definitely try to learn Spanish. Now, I know it's not easy. I didn't start learning until I was in my mid-20s. Now I'm getting pretty good at it. But what I've seen is that if you know Spanish, you're going to save a lot of money over time. You can negotiate your rent. You can make sure you're paying the right prices when you're inside of a convenience store or a small farmer's market. You can talk to people about transportation and haggle on things like that. Whereas if all you're speaking in English is that you're just going to get raked over the coals on pretty much everything. Every opportunity that someone gets to take advantage of you, they will, and they don't mind. But if you know Spanish, that will definitely give you an advantage in the other direction. My sixth tip about living in Mexico, and I kind of already touched on this, is that you should buy a home or a condo if you have the funds to do so, or you should use your Spanish skills to find some place to rent at the local level. Now, you could get an Airbnb, like this place, it was $750 a month. Or you can use your local Spanish skills to go find a place and get something for half of that easily and still live in a really nice place. My seventh tip for living in Mexico, and this will be useful only if you took my advice on tip number 3 to get residency, is that you can now get your driver's license and buy a vehicle while you're in Mexico. Now, you could just come down with like an international driver's permit, and that's going to be just fine while you're here on a temporary basis. But if you're living down in Mexico, it's a really good idea to have that residency, to have that Mexican driver's license, and to be able to purchase a car and get the plates underneath your Mexican residency status. That leads me into my 8th tip for living in Mexico, which is another benefit of the residency, is that you can open up a bank account down here. So you might be used to just having a bank account back in your home country. There's no problem with opening up a bank account down here in Mexico. I have one. You can leave money in it. You do have to report back to the United States, on your taxes and things like that, but it's really easy to do that kind of stuff. I wouldn't worry about that in this video. But it's just a good idea to have that extra bank account because, say for example, I want to withdraw some money from an ATM. I might go to the ATM with my American card and they could charge me $20 to withdraw that money. Whereas if I go and use my Mexican card, it's either going to be free or it's just going to be like $1 or $2 for a withdrawal charge. You live near somewhere that has really high quality infrastructure because it's really easy to get away from, say, a big city and go live in a little pueblito or something. And you might find that, hey, your power goes out a couple times a week or the internet doesn't really work there very well. And so if you're trying to build like an online business, you might find it really difficult if the infrastructure there is failing on a pretty consistent basis. Now, if you want to live near high quality infrastructure, it's really easy. Just stay in places like Mexico City, San Miguel de Allende, Puerto Vallarta, Mérida, any of these really big places like that are known expat communities. You're going to have much better infrastructure. The power is not going to drop out as much. The internet's going to stay on, etc. On the flip side of that, I have my 10th tip for you for living in Mexico, and that's that you don't spend too much time in those expat destinations. Now, this might just be a personal preference of mine. I like to live more like a local. I like to interact with the locals. It lets me work on my Spanish and things like that. I think it's just interesting also just to meet people from different cultures. And so if you're constantly around people who are from your culture, I'm not sure you're getting the same kind of international experience that you would get by living in a further flown location. Now, do keep in mind there might be the infrastructure problems, but you can always live still pretty close to the big cities. Even just an hour outside of one, you could live in a really small pueblito, but still be close enough to a big city that if you need the infrastructure, if you need the shopping or whatever, you can make it to it really quickly. Now, I told you that my 11th tip would be really good because it's a bunch of secret apps you can use down here to make your life really easy. Now, the things I'm talking about are maybe some you're familiar with. That'd be like Uber, but also consider Uber Food, and Didi Food, and Rappi. These kinds of apps allow you to not only be able to transport yourself around Mexico at a really affordable rate, but also you can get food delivered to you for really cheaply as well. And I'm actually going to give you some codes to use to get some money off in these apps, so just go look down in the description box for those. And if you want to know more about moving to Mexico, I have some videos about residency up here. I have how to move there on a budget down here. Don't forget to subscribe, and please hit the like button on this to help this video in the algorithm, and I'll see you in another video. Peace.